Assalamu alaikum. There are moments in life when everything feels heavy, when your plans break, your heart hurts and nothing seems to move the way you hoped. You ask Allah for ease, but the situation becomes harder. You make dua, but the answer feels delayed. In those moments, it is easy to think something has gone wrong. But what if those very moments are not punishment but protection? What if the hardship you are experiencing right now carries a mercy that your eyes cannot yet see? Allah does not allow pain without purpose. Every delay, every closed door, every struggle carries a wisdom far deeper than what we understand in the moment. Tonight we will reflect on a powerful truth. When life gets hard, Allah may be hiding a mercy inside the test. Life does not move in a straight line of comfort and ease. Every believer will eventually face moments that feel heavy and confusing. Plans fall apart, expectations break, and the heart begins to wonder why things are becoming difficult. In these moments, it is important to remember that hardship is not random. Allah does not allow events to happen without wisdom. Every test arrives within the knowledge and control of the one who created your story. What feels chaotic to you is part of a larger plan that Allah already sees clearly. The Qur'an reminds believers that they will be tested in different ways. Sometimes the test appears as fear, sometimes as loss, and sometimes as uncertainty about the future. These experiences are not signs of failure, they are moments designed to shape the heart and strengthen faith. A life without tests would not allow the soul to grow. Hardship becomes one of the ways Allah teaches patience and resilience. Through these moments, the believer slowly learns to rely on Allah more deeply. Many people imagine that closeness to Allah should remove all difficulty from life, but the reality of faith shows something different. The prophets themselves experienced the greatest hardships. They faced rejection, loneliness, loss, and immense trials, yet they remained the most beloved people to Allah. This shows that hardship is not a sign of being far from Allah. In many cases, it is a sign that Allah is shaping someone for a higher purpose. Hardship often arrives when a person least expects it. Everything may seem stable and peaceful, and suddenly life changes direction. A door closes, a problem appears, or a challenge emerges. These moments remind us that life is always under Allah's control. Human plans can change instantly, but Allah's plan never fails. When the believer remembers this truth, the heart begins to accept that every event is part of divine wisdom. Sometimes hardship forces a person to pause and reflect. When life is comfortable, people often move quickly without thinking deeply. They become busy with daily routines and forget the deeper purpose of their existence. Difficulty slows the soul down. It creates space for reflection and awareness. A person begins to ask deeper questions about life, faith, and their relationship with Allah. This reflection itself becomes a hidden blessing. The divine plan of Allah is far greater than human understanding. We see only the present moment, but Allah sees the past, the present, and the future together. Something that appears painful today may lead to goodness later. A path that seems blocked may actually be guiding you to a better destination. Because Allah sees the entire picture, His decisions always contain wisdom, even when we cannot understand them immediately. Hardship also reminds a person that control truly belongs to Allah alone. Humans often believe they are in control of their lives. They plan carefully and expect everything to move according to their wishes. But tests reveal the limits of human control. They remind the believer that the ultimate authority belongs to Allah. This realization humbles the heart and brings it closer to its Creator. There are moments when hardship appears repeatedly in someone's life. One difficulty ends, and another seems to begin. In those times, the heart may feel exhausted and overwhelmed. Yet even these repeated trials have a purpose. Allah may be strengthening the soul step by step. Just as muscles grow stronger through resistance, faith grows stronger through patience in difficult moments. When a believer understands that hardship is part of the divine plan, their perspective begins to change. Instead of asking why this is happening to them, they begin to ask what Allah wants them to learn. This shift in thinking transforms the way a person experiences trials. The test remains difficult, but the heart becomes calmer because it knows there is wisdom behind the moment. The divine plan of Allah also includes timing that humans cannot control. Sometimes a test arrives at a moment that feels inconvenient or unexpected, but Allah knows exactly when a person needs to experience something. The timing of every event is perfectly placed within the story of a person's life. What seems mistimed to us may actually be arriving at the exact moment it is needed. Hardship also teaches the believer the value of patience. Patience is not simply waiting without emotion. It is the strength to remain steady while trusting Allah's wisdom. Through difficulty, patience becomes a living reality instead of just a concept. The believer begins to practice calmness, trust, and endurance. These qualities slowly build a stronger and more mature heart. Another wisdom in hardship is that it reveals the temporary nature of the world. Comfort can create the illusion that life will always remain stable, but tests remind us that the world is constantly changing. Nothing here lasts forever. This realization encourages the believer to focus more on the eternal life of the hereafter, rather than becoming attached to temporary comforts. The divine plan often includes moments that appear confusing at first. A person may struggle to understand why something happened. They search for answers but find none immediately. Over time, however, clarity often appears. What once seemed confusing begins to make sense. The believer realizes that Allah's wisdom was guiding events all along. Hardship also connects believers to the experiences of others. When someone has experienced pain, they become more compassionate toward people who are struggling. They understand suffering in a deeper way. This empathy allows them to support others with sincerity and kindness. In this way, personal hardship can transform someone into a source of comfort for others. Another important reality is that tests reveal the depth of a person's faith. In easy times, belief may remain unchallenged, but when difficulties appear, the heart must decide whether to trust Allah or fall into despair. These moments reveal the strength of the relationship between a believer and their Creator. Through these trials, faith becomes stronger and more sincere. Hardship also pushes the believer to turn toward prayer and remembrance. In moments of difficulty, people naturally seek help from Allah. They raise their hands in dua and ask for guidance and relief. This connection with Allah becomes deeper than before. The heart begins to feel the comfort that comes from speaking to the one who controls all affairs. The divine plan of Allah includes wisdom that may remain hidden for years. A person may not understand the benefit of a test until much later in life. Looking back, they begin to see how one event led to another. What once felt painful becomes part of a story filled with growth and transformation. This realization strengthens trust in Allah's wisdom. Hardship also teaches humility. When life is comfortable, pride can quietly enter the heart. People may begin to believe that their success comes only from their own abilities. Tests remind the believer that everything ultimately comes from Allah. This humility protects the heart from arrogance and keeps it grounded in gratitude. The divine plan does not promise a life without difficulty. Instead, it promises guidance through those difficulties. Allah does not leave believers alone during their struggles. His mercy, guidance, and support remain present even in the darkest moments. The believer who remembers this truth finds strength to continue moving forward. In the end, hardship is not a meaningless interruption in life. It is a carefully placed chapter in the story Allah is writing for each soul. Every difficulty carries a lesson, a purpose, and a hidden mercy. The believer who understands this begins to see hardship differently. Instead of seeing it only as pain, they begin to recognize it as part of the divine plan that leads the heart closer to Allah. There are moments in life when something leaves us suddenly. A relationship ends, an opportunity disappears, or a plan we worked so hard for collapses without warning. In that moment, the heart feels heavy and confused. It feels like something valuable has been taken away. We ask ourselves why this happened and what we did wrong. But sometimes the pain we feel is not because something good was taken from us. Sometimes it is because Allah quietly removed something that would have harmed us later. Human beings naturally judge events based on how they feel in the moment. If something brings happiness, we assume it must be good. If something causes pain, we assume it must be bad. But Allah sees what lies beyond the moment we are living in. He sees consequences that are hidden from us. What feels like a painful loss today may actually be protection from something far more difficult tomorrow. Many people look back years later and realize that a door closing was one of the greatest blessings of their life. At the time it felt unfair and confusing, but with time they saw how that moment redirected their path. The opportunity they lost led them to a better one. The relationship that ended protected their peace. The plan that failed guided them toward a more meaningful future. Allah sometimes removes something because He knows it is not meant for your story. We often become attached to certain outcomes. We imagine a specific future and hope it will unfold exactly the way we planned. But Allah knows what each path contains. He knows the people we will meet, the challenges we will face, and the consequences that will appear along the way. When something is not meant for us, Allah may close that door even if our hearts resist the change. One of the difficult truths of life is that people do not always see danger when it approaches slowly. Something may look beautiful and promising on the outside. It may appear like a blessing at first, but hidden beneath it could be harm that we cannot recognize yet. Allah, in His mercy, sometimes removes things before that hidden harm reaches us. This kind of protection does not always feel gentle. Sometimes it arrives in a way that shakes our expectations. A sudden ending, an unexpected rejection, or a painful separation can feel like the world has shifted under our feet. Yet within that shift, there may be a protection that we cannot fully understand in the moment. Protection from Allah does not always mean preventing hardship. Sometimes it means guiding a person away from a path that would have led to deeper pain. In these moments, the believer must trust that Allah knows what the heart cannot yet see. Even when the situation feels unfair, there may be wisdom unfolding behind the scenes. There are countless stories of people who once cried over something they lost. They believed their happiness had disappeared forever, but years later they realized that losing that thing was one of the greatest mercies they ever experienced. What felt like a painful ending became the beginning of a better chapter in their life. When Allah removes something, He is not simply taking it away. He is also guiding the believer towards something else. Sometimes the new path appears slowly. Sometimes it takes time before the heart begins to understand where Allah is leading. But every change that Allah allows carries a purpose within it. It is natural for the heart to grieve when something leaves. Islam does not ask believers to ignore their emotions. Feeling sadness or disappointment is part of being human. Even the prophets experienced grief when facing difficult moments. But faith teaches us to hold that sadness while still trusting Allah's wisdom. One of the most comforting realizations in life is that Allah never removes something without knowledge of what comes next. Humans often fear the unknown future. They worry that losing something means they will never find something better. But Allah is the one who controls what comes next. The believer is never left without care or guidance. Sometimes the removal of something forces a person to grow in ways they never expected. Losing comfort can push someone to develop strength. Losing certainty can deepen reliance on Allah. Losing something familiar can lead a person to discover new opportunities that they would have never explored otherwise. Protection from Allah can also appear in the form of delay. A person may try repeatedly to achieve something, but the door continues to remain closed. This repeated delay may feel frustrating and confusing, yet behind that delay there may be protection from something that was never meant to happen. In many situations, people only recognize Allah's protection after time has passed. The clarity that comes with distance allows them to see the full picture. What once looked like loss now appears as guidance. The moment they once questioned becomes a moment they feel grateful for. Faith teaches the believer to trust Allah even when the heart cannot see the reason yet. This trust is not always easy. It requires patience and humility. It requires accepting that Allah's wisdom is greater than human understanding. But this trust also brings peace, because it reminds the believer that nothing happens outside of Allah's care. Sometimes Allah protects a person by removing people from their life. Not every relationship is meant to remain forever. Some people enter our lives for a period of time and then leave when their role in our journey ends. When someone leaves, it can feel deeply painful, but their departure may also be clearing space for something healthier, and more aligned with your future. Protection from Allah also extends to situations we never even realize were dangerous. There are paths we never took, decisions we never made, and events we never experienced because Allah guided us away from them. We may never know how much harm we were saved from. This understanding changes the way a believer views loss. Instead of seeing every ending as pure pain, the believer begins to see the possibility of mercy hidden within it. The heart learns to pause before assuming that something lost was truly meant to stay. When something leaves your life, it does not always mean you were rejected. Sometimes it means you were redirected. Allah may be moving you away from something that would have damaged your peace or faith. That redirection may feel uncomfortable at first, but it is often part of a greater wisdom. In the end, what feels like loss may actually be one of the greatest forms of protection Allah gives to His servants. The believer may not understand the reason immediately, but with patience, trust, and time, the hidden mercy behind that loss often begins to reveal itself. There are times in life when everything feels comfortable and stable. In those moments, a person may believe their faith is strong and steady, but comfort often hides the true condition of the heart. It is easy to feel confident in faith when life is smooth and predictable. The real test of the heart appears when hardship arrives. Difficult moments reveal what lies deep inside the soul. When life becomes difficult, the heart reacts in different ways. Some people turn closer to Allah and seek His help with sincerity. Others may feel overwhelmed and begin to lose hope. These reactions reveal the inner state of a person's faith. Hardship acts like a mirror that reflects the true connection between the believer and their Creator. Comfort sometimes creates the illusion that we are in control of everything. When life goes according to our plans, we may begin to rely more on our own efforts than on Allah. Hardship breaks this illusion. It reminds the believer that true control belongs only to Allah. When a person realizes this, the heart becomes softer and more humble. During moments of difficulty, prayer often becomes deeper and more sincere. A person who once prayed quickly may begin to pray with real presence of heart. Dua becomes more meaningful because it comes from a place of genuine need. Hardship removes the distractions that once surrounded the heart and brings the believer back to sincere communication with Allah. There are people who only discover the depth of their faith during difficult times. When life becomes challenging, they begin to remember Allah more often. They turn to the Qur'an, they seek guidance, and they ask for strength through prayer. The hardship becomes the moment that awakens their spiritual awareness. Hardship also reveals the strength of a person's patience. Patience is not truly tested during ease. It is tested when a person faces delays, uncertainty, or emotional pain. In those moments, the believer must decide whether to remain patient or to fall into frustration and despair. This decision reveals the strength of the heart. The tests that arrive in life are not only about external situations, they are also about the internal response of the soul. Two people may experience the same hardship, but react in completely different ways. One may grow stronger in faith, while the other becomes more distant from Allah. The difference lies in the state of the heart. When hardship reveals weaknesses in the heart, this is not something to feel ashamed of. It is actually an opportunity for growth. Recognizing weakness allows a person to improve their relationship with Allah. It invites the believer to strengthen their faith and develop deeper trust in divine wisdom. Hardship also removes the false sense of independence that many people carry. Humans often believe they can solve everything on their own, but difficult moments remind us that we need Allah in every part of our lives. This realization brings humility and sincerity back to the heart. In moments of hardship, the believer begins to understand the meaning of reliance on Allah. Reliance is not simply saying that we trust Allah. It is feeling that trust deeply even when circumstances feel uncertain. Hardship creates the conditions where this reliance becomes real. Another important reality is that hardship reveals who truly stands with you. Difficult moments often show which people offer genuine support and which relationships were only present during ease. This clarity can sometimes be painful, but it also helps the believer understand the true nature of the people around them. When the heart is tested, a person begins to discover their inner strength. They realize that their connection with Allah gives them the ability to endure more than they once believed possible. Faith becomes a source of resilience that helps them continue moving forward. Hardship also reveals the sincerity of worship. When life is easy, acts of worship may sometimes become routine habits. But when difficulty arrives, worship becomes a sincere act of seeking closeness to Allah. Prayer, remembrance, and supplication gain deeper meaning. Many believers discover that their strongest spiritual moments occurred during the hardest periods of their lives. The pain they experienced pushed them to seek Allah with complete honesty. Those moments of sincere connection often become turning points in their spiritual journey. Tests also reveal the level of gratitude in a person's heart. Even during hardship, some believers continue to thank Allah for the blessings that remain in their lives. This gratitude reflects a heart that understands the deeper wisdom behind trials. When hardship exposes impatience or doubt within the heart, it becomes a chance to grow spiritually. Instead of ignoring these feelings, the believer can work to strengthen their trust in Allah. Over time, the heart becomes calmer and more resilient. The journey of faith is not about having a perfect heart that never struggles. It is about recognizing weakness and continuing to turn back to Allah. Hardship helps reveal those weaknesses so they can be healed and strengthened. Sometimes the greatest transformation in a believer's life begins with a difficult moment. The test shakes the heart awake and pushes the person toward deeper reflection and spiritual growth. What once felt like a painful disruption becomes the beginning of a stronger faith. Through hardship, the believer learns that faith is not only about words, it is about the choices made during the most challenging moments. It is about trusting Allah when the path ahead feels uncertain. In the end, hardship does not only change the circumstances of life, it changes the heart itself. It reveals its strengths, its weaknesses, and its true connection with Allah. Through this process, the believer slowly becomes stronger, wiser, and more sincere in their faith. If you are going through a difficult moment right now, remember this: the pain you feel may not be the end of your story. It may be the place where Allah is quietly writing the beginning of something better. Many of the greatest mercies in life first arrive disguised as hardship. The door that closes today may be protecting you from a future you cannot see yet. The delay that frustrates you may be preparing you for a blessing you are not ready to receive yet. So do not let the test convince you that Allah has forgotten you. The one who controls every moment of your life has not lost sight of you even for a second. Your struggle is seen, your patience is known, your tears are counted. One day you may look back at this exact moment and realize something powerful. The hardship you feared was actually carrying a hidden mercy all along.